Okay, welcome back, everybody. This is RiRi and GiGi, and today we are talking about a hot topic that everybody out there all over the internet is talking about. You'll see a whole bunch of posts,
Yep.
Instagram, TikTok. Guess what that topic is?
Narcissism.
Narcissism. So we wanted to come to you because there are a lot of good things out there, a lot of people who are giving you good information, but there's also people out there who are putting stuff up just for likes, and you're getting misinformation that way. So we want to make sure that you're not getting the stuff that isn't quite accurate, because that wouldn't be that helpful for you. And we want to go ahead and clear some things up and make it a little more digestible and understandable so you know exactly what you're looking for.
And it's so interesting just watching how many people are talking about it, why this is such a big, major trending topic in society and life. But it really is. And I think it's important. The conversation will continue, but I do think it's important, like you said, to kind of like break it down and what it really entails, because narcissism is a psychiatric disorder. So it's called narcissistic personality disorder. It's actually a personality disorder. So let's keep that together.
Right.
But I found something I thought was very interesting to kind of like break it down. So somebody can have narcissistic traits,
Right.
So they can be like full of themselves, talk a lot about themselves, be very self-important. But people who have NPD is very different.
Right,
This is
right.
somebody who it's really severe. This sense of self-importance
Right.
is
right.
really severe, and it kind of cuts through all of their relationships.
Right.
And it's been over time. Sometimes it costs, some consequences
Right.
also.
And that's how we can break it down between the people that are saying XYZ is a narcissist, and
Yep.
it may not necessarily be, it just might be a narcissistic trait. You don't have to be a narcissist to have a couple of these traits. It's when it's in a really severe form, and
Right.
you can pick those traits out and know exactly what you're dealing with.
Correct. According to Duke Health, it says they have an acronym called Special Me, which I thought was so cool. So it says sense of self-importance, preoccupation with power, beauty, and success. I want you to think about people who comes to mind, or situations. Entitled, can only be around people who are important or special. Interpersonal, exploitive for their own gain, arrogant, lack empathy. Listen, that is so key, right?
Yep.
Must be admired and envious of others, or believe people are envious of them for whatever reason,
Right,
which no
right,
basis. So
right.
those are key characteristics of people with NPD. And one of the key things you want to understand is that it needs to be 5 to 6 or more that are continuous. So it's
Right.
not just one. It has to be, these are 9, but only 3 of them you may not have. But 6 of them you have, over time, yeah, you pretty much NPD. Otherwise,
Right.
you have narcissistic
Traits.
traits.
Right. And I know there are people, an example of some of these, when it talks about preoccupation with power, beauty, or success, combine that with can only be around people who are important or special, and envious of others, or believes that others are envious of them. All these things. Like, there was a guy who was dropping hints that he wanted to date me, and I'm like, let me drop some hints that you can't date me. So I was like, hey, I got a friend who's single, really nice person, no kids. I think you guys might be somebody who could, maybe see if there's something that could spark. And guy was not physically attractive by any type of
To you.
standard. Not at all to me. And this was somebody who was actually self-professed ugly, right?
Wait. Break that down. So he acknowledged he wasn't good looking.
Acknowledged that he wasn't good looking. But when and this was because he was doing he was a guest on someone's show. The show was about relationships, and he wanted to tell women, y'all just do too much with wanting men to be good looking and make money and do this. And, I know I'm ugly, but I'm a good guy. I'm nice. I work hard. I got, that he wasn't lying about. But, I sent a picture of my friend, and he texted me back talking about, now, I got standards. I can't be going out like that.
Yeah, good. Yeah,
Wait,
men,
what?
Yeah.
You just told the world that you look like somebody's butt, and you saying that this woman is not good enough for you?
Men that are self-proclaimed not, they don't feel like they look good to the world standards, absolutely have a standard. They definitely want a trophy chick.
And that goes around, can only be around people who are important or special, so you have to have a certain aesthetic for him to be around you.
That's part of it.
Yeah.
You can't be less than that.
Yes. Yes. I was like, wow. Tell women, you all need to let go of this holding these men to a certain standard of looks. And you turn around in the same breath and hold a woman who is kind, intelligent, hardworking, has her own, has money, but she doesn't fit the beauty aesthetic for you.
Correct.
You wouldn't even look twice at her.
Because it's not about that. It's about how she makes him look, how he feels he presents himself to the world. Because if he doesn't look the part, she does.
Absolutely.
And the way that she looks validates him immediately, because people will say, well, if she finds him to be appealing or she's with him, there must be something great about him.
Exactly.
There must be something wonderful about him.
Exactly.
Regardless of what he looks like.
Using her looks to validate him.
Absolutely.
And that just, it can fill in all these other things, interpersonally exploitative for their own gain. It's like you are looking to exploit some woman's looks to get yourself admiration and applause from the fellas. Oh, that's you, that's you.
Oh, that's all it's about.
Yeah. Narcissist.
Yes.
Narcissist to the core. And I could go through a whole bunch of other things. This one probably checks off all 9.
Right.
Let me ask you this. So we're going to talk about the malignant narcissist,
yes,
the covert narcissist,
yes,
and the communal narcissist.
Right.
So let's break.
And there are many others, but these 3 are pretty top. Yeah.
There's a long list, and we might have to make that another episode.
But it's important to know that it's important to know what you're looking at and what you're hearing, what you're dealing with.
Right. So let's build our way up. We'll start with the covert narcissist.
Yeah, that's one of my favorites because they are really hard to detect. They are so subtle in their behavior, but it's always all about them. And one thing that I want to highlight, right, RiRi, that we didn't mention. You might hear a lot of folks talking about this whole notion of they're majorly insecure, and they, as you notice, we didn't list none of that. What we just listed mention insecurity because it's not about. They're not insecure.
No,
these folk really are not insecure. They may be delusional,
right?
But they're not insecure. That is not what they're feeling or experiencing at the moment.
Arrogant as a mug.
So covert narcissists are really absorbed with self-importance. That's their key thing. But the 2 things that are very critical when you are dealing with someone, they're always going to make it about themselves. They're always going to do this, but they're going to be extremely hypersensitive and extremely what?
What would they be?
Defensive as heck.
Now what do you mean when you say hypersensitive?
Anything you say to them, they get really, why you say that about me?
Okay,
that's not what I meant. And why are you always judging things like that? And why you think it's always defending. Stop hating on me. I don't believe this. I never believe, I didn't do this to you. That's just in your head. That's not what I said. Very sensitive. Like you can't express yourself. If you find yourself in a situation where it's tough to have a conversation with your partner, and they're just, everything you say, they turn around. Everything you say, they react to. So you just feel like you need to go on mute. You get tired. You go, forget it. I can't be bothered because that's not what I meant. If you find yourself saying, that's not what I meant, that is because they are highly sensitive, and they are extremely defensive.
And so that's where the gaslighting can come in.
Absolutely.
So the covert narcissist will do that as well, the gaslighting.
And that's why it's covert, because you don't realize that you're dealing with someone with narcissistic traits, staunch narcissistic traits, because you think and it may come across like like they're just overly sensitive, and I need to be careful how I say things to them.
They may seem so hurt.
They may seem hurt, and I didn't mean it like that. You find yourself apologizing. You find yourself moving differently. You find yourself adjusting, prioritizing their needs just so that they don't, get upset. They don't feel sensitive, or they don't get defensive. But if you find yourself constantly in conversations that the person is reacting defensively and really, really sensitive, take a look. I guarantee you, and that you might be dealing with a covert narcissist.
Right.
Because remember, they really do think they are very important. That doesn't mean they aren't arrogant. That doesn't mean they don't think they're important at all. They do. They think they're highly important.
So let's move on up to the communal narcissist. So the communal narcissist is also very deceptive type of narcissism. This is where your average person is going to see all the good deeds that these people do. So, and they're very good at making sure they push forth these good deeds. So they are the people that you find in a church setting where they are someone who is very upstanding, and they push the good of the church. They make sure that they're doing all the things that the people need done, but they're there to find the people who they can manipulate into giving them the praise and adoration.
And they can attract people with those qualities.
Yes.
Right? Because people mistake them for being virtuous. People mistake them for being like, this is really honest. There's a purity to this when it really isn't.
Right. I remember when I was a kid, elementary school age, single digits, and my sister's 3 years younger than I am. And we would go to Virginia to my grandmother's, and her great aunts and all, lived there. And we were on the front porch one day, and I heard somebody say, "Oh, here comes the Reverend. Where the kids at?" Right? Because, and they're like, "Oh, they're right here." Okay. And here he comes. "Hey, Reverend so-and-so, how you doing? Oh, just came by to see how everybody's doing," whatever. Which never left my head. This was, I don't know how many years ago. I was a kid. Why are they asking where we are when he comes here?
Right.
So here you have the leader of a church who is clearly a nefarious personality.
Correct.
Because they need to know that the children are in eyesight if he's around.
Right.
Yet, he has an entire congregation following him. Communal.
Right.
Because here's the community that he is taking care of and uplifting and doing all the right things on the surface for the community.
And that's where their egos get fed.
Yep.
Right.
These people come, and he knows this is where I can find the people to worship me.
Right. And congregants are vulnerable. They want direction. And they do believe at times that these, reverends, folks, leaders of the church do no wrong, or they're next to God, or, they just have a handle on how to avoid sin or have a handle on how to guide and lead. And a lot of times they are far more vulnerable than you think, right? It's an opportunity to really brew this kind of character and reinforce it. So folks, in terms of being a communal narcissist, can really be reinforced in those kind of settings, because you get the impression that people are they're good, they're good guys or good women.
And that's the other part too. Those are the personalities around them that are going to deflect the negativity away from them. Well, she might have been 13, but she fast. You put it on the
victim blaming,
because you're going to take care of him, because he is the communal leader, and he was tempted. He was seduced, by a child.
Right.
You know, or even not a child if he's married by, you know, Susie Q adult.
Right.
But he still has his own will, but they'll say, oh, well, you know, she's a this and she's
Correct.
a Jezebel and blah, blah, blah.
And here's what folks need to do. If you ever in a situation where your gut, because I know you talk about your gut tells you see something that just don't sit right with you, don't dismiss it.
Right.
You might need to park it, but don't dismiss it.
Right.
Because that is people always show themselves, and you just want to pay attention just to the small details, right? You can park it and wait for another occasion where it comes up again, but do not dismiss it and say, oh, well, I'm thinking poorly, I'm not. No, that's a window. That's an opening, a window to, you know, seeing who the person really is.
And that we have one who is on the national stage, international stage even, running for president of the United States. That is politics is one arena where there is a high concentration of at least fairly high functioning narcissists.
Yes.
And that person is a blatant example of a narcissist.
Yes.
I mean, you can look and it doesn't matter what he says. He doesn't care what he says. As long as people believe him, he's going to keep saying it.
But he's convinced of what he says. He's very convinced of his importance. He's convinced that there's no one smarter, more capable, more relevant, and absolutely believes that people are envious of him and who he is. It is amazing.
Amazing. Absolutely amazing. Let's now talk about our malignant narcissist.
And it's funny, it's good to segue into that because just talking about the same person, what's interesting is if he said, if I lose in November, there'll be bloodshed.
Yep.
So let's talk about malignancy, right? So that's a threat, right? No one seems to be saying anything about the threat, but you're saying, so people, they're going to be bloodshed?
Right.
So people going to what? Kill people because you lost?
Right.
Okay, so that, let me tell you, people hear that and they believe that.
Right.
And and it's not that it's not plausible. It can happen, right? Because we already know what happened when he was in office, right? What
and the
happened
first
at
time
the
we
White-
ran, when he
yes.
said I could be right in the middle of Times Square or something and shoot people and nothing would happen to me.
Correct.
Violence again.
Correct. Because malignant narcissists believe all those things about themselves. Self-importance, everything that we mentioned about the 9 characteristics. They're arrogant. They believe they're complete self-importance. But they will use people to their advantage.
Yes.
They have no remorse.
Yes.
They will use people for their gain, to maintain whatever status that they want. They will lie. They will do whatever they need to do. They don't care about how they hurt people.
Right. And that's
That
what
is
people
what
don't
makes them
understand.
malignant.
Yeah. I remember I was reading on a website and because I couldn't believe that the website actually said this, it was treatment for the narcissist. I was like, wait a minute, what? Okay, what kind of hocus pocus snake oil nonsense are they offering up here on how to cure the narcissist?
Correct.
Because this stuff is so entrenched, so deep, they don't want to change. There's nothing that they could possibly fix.
Correct. Because they don't believe there's anything wrong with them.
They think that they are A-okay. And then it comes to the people surrounding them. There were people leaving comments about things that were happening. This one woman left a comment about her husband was abusive to her and her son, and she thinks he's a narcissist. And even after reading all the stuff, she goes, but I guess she's coming here looking for help because I still feel that somewhere deep inside the love is still there. And I'm like, bro, wake up. Wake up. That love was a front. It was a mask. It was to lure you in so he could do whatever he's been doing to you. That wasn't love, honey.
Right.
It's like, wake up.
That may have been some of that communal stuff going on.
Who knows? Who knows?
Covert, yes.
Right.
Yeah, whatever it was that led her to believe that, it was purposeful.
Yeah,
right?
and she's so desperate to feel that he loves her that she would be willing to hope that there's something there when you actually believe they're a narcissist.
Right.
And they don't feel for you.
I think the hardest thing for people is accepting that narcissists are narcissists are narcissists.
Right.
if they have narcissistic characteristics that are truly entrenched in their character, they're not going to change. Right? So it is darn near impossible to treat a narcissist, right? So it's basically, especially as an MPD, they're like, well, how do you treat? First of all, you have to convince somebody that something's wrong with them. Right? And they have to have a consequence. That's why people typically go or diagnosed or may seek therapy or whatever the case may be. There's in that case, what happens is that you have to have some consequence for your actions. Like you begin to have some loss of functioning, impact to your life. Narcissists seldom times don't really see it as a loss, right? They just see people as people are the problem. People are acting out. So they'll just replace you with somebody else. Because they just need a feeder. They need someone they can feed off of. So they'll just replace you. So they don't see themselves as the problem.
Right. And
so
is that typical of for all the ASPDs across the board?
Yes.
And when I say ASPD, I mean antisocial personality disorder, which narcissism falls under.
It does. Well, it does fall under it, right? Because antisocial personality disorder is a different diagnosis, but it does fall. It's difficult. It's a personality disorder, but it doesn't cause. It's the one personality disorder that doesn't cause the person problems. It causes other people.
So. Just to quickly touch on this, we can get this onto another episode. Now speaking about the other ones, the psychopath and your sociopath, does it really cause them problems? Because I think they feel the same way as the narcissist. Everything is everybody else and not them.
Well, you can. It's a facet to be a sociopath or a psychopath. It really has to do with a lack of empathy. It's a departure from having empathy, and just doing what you need to do. Is that usually a narcissist or narcissistic personality disorder? Yes. Right. But you can have those. It's more like a trait. It's a way to describe who the person is in terms of the behavior that they have exhibited. Right. But personality, no one is really diagnosed as, they're not diagnosed as a psychopath or a sociopath. They're identifying a behavior.
Right. Okay.
They're really more defining the behavior that so somebody can be a psychopath or a sociopath based on what they've exhibited and who they've hurt.
Right.
Right. But you can be a narcissist and you can be a psychopath at the same time.
Okay. Really, at the same time, not necessarily.
Your personality disorder is it's just who you are. It's your trait. It's who.
So you would have both those disorders then, or would you be like a psychopath with narcissistic tendencies, or are you both a psychopath?
You can be a narcissist with psychopathic tendencies or sociopathic tendencies. Usually these are, people who absolutely don't have any empathy at all for people, but they can be other things.
So what would this, there was a news article I read, right? The boyfriend became the ex-boyfriend. Didn't like that. Was upset that the girlfriend, stood her, realized her boundaries and then enforced them. And he said, if I can't get to you, he went in the house. He broke into the house where she had a 10-month-old puppy. He took the puppy, dunked it in water, and then threw it in the freezer for an hour, came back, dunked it in water again, threw it in the freezer another hour.
It wasn't dead the first time?
No, not the first time. He did it about 3 times, until the puppy was dead. And then he put the puppy on her bed, where he could show that I'm still in control here. I'm still going to control how you feel. Even though it's not what I initially wanted, I'm still going to control you.
Right. So what's associated with that is this ability to be malicious, it's really about being sadistic, right? And causing harm and pain for a reaction.
Yes.
Right? And it's having absolutely no empathy, meaning you don't care how the person feels, but you want the reaction, right? So can you be a narcissist? Possible. Yes, you can be a narcissist. Are you saying, is it that you have to be a narcissist to be a psychopath? No, you can.
Well, what would that person fall under with that limited amount of information on him?
You can identify the person must have narcissistic traits, but would they be diagnosed as NPD? It's hard to. You'd need more information.
Right.
Because it can fall under other personality disorders, right? Dependent personality disorder. There are other personality disorders that can result in those kinds of behaviors.
Well, that definitely had that air of sadism, and because you didn't like me, I have to punish you.
Right. It is a way of controlling an outcome. It is a way of punishing, or it is addressing some underlying issue that's going on that you need more information to be able to determine what is, the basis for them to respond that way. Right. So, for instance, if you watch a lot of crime shows, women, sometimes there's a correlation between what the trauma that a young person, when they were younger, they experienced. Like if their mother had frequent male visitors and they were abused by them, or if the child was allowed to be abused by an adult, by the parent, and they grow up, you can have surrogates, right, to punish the person that hurt you. In your older life, you can find surrogates and punish them. So it's not really more about being a narcissist so much. That can be part of it, but that's not really what we're looking at. What we're looking at is why are people reacting the way that they do? Like, what does it mean to be sadistic towards someone? It usually ties back to something traumatic that happened, or whatever perception. Like some people have perception that prostitutes are all dirty and they need to be cleansed.
Right.
And they can act out sadistic, psychopathic.
Like the guy on Long Island that went and killed all the sex workers.
They can do that because it has to do with some folks sometimes have religious beliefs that are so staunch that they will act out things, right? Without empathy, without care.
Right.
That's why people get confused with slavery sometimes, because there are people who were very sadistic, but not all of them. They will keep people that they use to enact those
things. Yeah. For the guy on Long Island, what's ironic is I actually worked in the same department where his adopted mother worked when I was in college. And so she wasn't the person. The mother that he was adopted from was a prostitute. And he would be in the back of the car when she was driving around to go make her money. And somehow, he ended up getting some sort of trauma that he carried with him from that before he got adopted.
Right.
And that
happens.
Yeah.
But I can tell you I know a young man who was always very abusive in his relationships with the women he was in, right? But he was raised by a very narcissistic and abusive mother, right? Who was just very heavy-handed, right? So the reason why he treated women that way is because when he was a kid, he wanted to react to his mother. He wanted to check her. He wanted, when he got to be an adult, in fact, he did. I think there was one incident where they were arguing and he hit his mom, right? But the way that he treated women, right?
Was what he wanted to do.
The whole idea of being respected, it really would be at his core. And he did not necessarily have any particular sense of empathy toward them. He just feel like they needed to be regulated to do X, Y, Z, and if they didn't do it, he would put hands on them, right? And it would always result in these major, major blow-ups and bloodbaths at times. And that was the course. It never changed. I mean, the person's now in their 70s, not in a relationship, but it never changed.
Never changed, yeah.
Never changed.
For another example, there is a guy who was telling me about his ex-wife. And this is I get that sense of communal because this is somebody that wanted to be so supportive or whatever. The ex-wife suffered trauma through sexual abuse as a child, and he, I believe he forced her to relive it. so that it could break her and traumatize her all over again. And then he could swoop in and save the day. And you need to go to therapy. Let's get you into therapy. And, and took her to therapy.
But all of
to
that,
be the hero.
Right. All of that validates their importance. And it's really about being able to pay attention to these signs when you're in the relationship. Because if you don't identify as a narcissist, if you don't identify as someone who has psychopathic tendencies, if you know that this is not you, and you may or may not know, right? But for the most part, if you can identify it in someone else, 9 out of 10 times you don't operate like that. We all have the ability to, feel self-important. We should, right? We should think highly of ourselves. We should. We're talking about an exaggerated sense of it. And we're talking about the use of power over others. That's what we're talking about, is the distinction between narcissistic tendencies. It's not, you can be arrogant. Arrogance sometimes is necessary to be great leaders, but you should have a balance with humility, with self-reflection, with the ability to understand that, okay, I hurt someone, let me go and apologize, let me adjust. If you have accountability. Correct, you have accountability. If you can't do any of those things, right? And if it's a consistent over time, where it's about you, it's about your self-importance, it's about your power, it's about this, and everyone falls below that, then you are looking more at a narcissistic trait.
And this is what happened with this person after they went to therapy. I guess the therapy must have re-empowered the woman, and she got the heck out of Dodge.
Okay.
And then he said he had to go to therapy because her trauma traumatized him because he couldn't help her. He put it on her instead of he started it all by re-traumatizing her, because that's what he needed to break her down into nothing so he could swoop in and save the poor, pathetic woman.
Right. But even if you look at stats, a lot of therapists will say that they don't have great success treating narcissists.
Right.
Even if they come in for that reason.
Well, this wasn't for that this is someone who would never admit to themselves that they are what they would refuse to see it.
Right. No, they'll go to therapy for you.
Right.
They'll go to therapy because they're trying to help you. Like they're trying to figure you out. So they'll go. But that's why a trained therapist will be able to go, I don't know.
And this is what people don't catch on. Right. They don't catch on. This same person, again, while they were telling me these stories, I think this is how it came up. Again, trying to, find out what I'm about, not happening. So if you're in a relationship, would you go to therapy? For what? Go to therapy for what? If the person asked you to. If they asked me to, I would go, but why would I be going? Because they think you need to go for something. Would you go to therapy if somebody asked you? Yes. Why? Because I need to support them in whatever they're going through.
They don't see.
So you would never go because they think you need to go for something.
Or you wouldn't go because you see that you could benefit from it. That's not what you're saying. That's not a sentence that you're stating.
Right. Like, clearly, it's them.
It's clearly.
And you are there to support them. Not if they asked you to go. If you asked them to go, it's because you see that they have a problem and you need to support them. If they ask you to go, it's because they have a problem and need you to support them.
Correct. But those are all red flags. Right. To be able to pay attention to. And it is so important that, we just do not ever, be careful not to second guess yourself.
Right.
Trust me. Right. Do not second guess yourself. If you need to write it down, whatever, to remind yourself you just experienced that an hour ago, last week, that this is a pattern. Believe what you see. Believe it. Believe it the first time.
If your stomach gets that little knot in it, the little butterflies, it is telling you, your gut is telling you what your heart will not tell you, what your head will not tell you. If your experiences haven't exposed you to this, or if your trauma has made you feel like you need to be in these abusive situations, your gut is still the last resort that's going to save you.
And the thing that you also want to keep in mind is that narcissists, with those with narcissistic traits or with actual NPD, they study you. And they study you. They figure out exactly what to say, how to say it, when to say it. They'll know how to maneuver you. They'll know how to work you. And you'll fall to it. But at the same time, you're feeling things. Your gut is telling you, ugh. Those are the things that we're saying. Please pay attention to. Please talk to someone. Say, yo, this doesn't feel good. Don't wait for a whole bunch of information to make your move. Sometimes it's the small things.
Right.
Like we were talking about that video we were just watching with the woman. It's something as simple, right? As
let's pull that up.
Okay.
This is the young lady that was talking about her date, right?
Yep. First date. Think about it. First date.
Okay, let's see.
You don't need 2 or 3 dates to prove.
A first date with a gentleman. I arrive at the restaurant. He's already sitting at the bar. He has a salad and a cocktail. I sit down to join him. He tells me I can order whatever I want on the menu. And I say, okay. So at the time I was feeling like salmon, some mashed potatoes, and some asparagus. So I place my order. We chat. During the conversation, during the conversation and me waiting for my food, he talks a lot about himself. He asks me some very minimal questions, but he seems to be a little bit self-absorbed. I know how guys can be sometimes. They are excited about their job and what they got going on. So he just yada, yada, yada. No salt. So the meal comes out, the bartender, because we're sitting at the bar, the bartender brings out my food. And I say to myself, oh, I know I'm going to need some salt and pepper on my asparagus, because asparagus to me doesn't taste good unless it's seasoned properly for all my asparagus eaters.
Yeah.
So he then says to me, oh, I don't like a woman who uses salt.
Okay.
I think to myself, who am I sitting next to? Ike Turner and reincarnate? So, you know your girl, well, maybe you're going to get to know me. I don't like when people tell me I can't do something. So I waved the bartender down. I was like, excuse me, can you please bring me some salt and pepper? And so out the side of my eye, I see the guy look like he pissed off. So anyway, I get the salt.
Don't know her.
I sprinkle just enough on my asparagus to make it taste good
But
to
how
me.
many people
and I put
would
some
have
black
not
pepper. And
ordered
he
salt?
says to me, wait for it. I can't believe you did that.
Oh.
What?
Doesn't look like a child.
I turn to him and I say, excuse me, you can't believe I did what?
Over
I said,
salt.
you make it seem
Yes.
like I disobeyed you.
On her plate.
I said, I don't know what's going on in your mind, but I'm an adult.
She said disobeyed.
And I
That's
heard you say
key.
that you don't like a woman who uses salt. You don't like a woman who uses salt. I said, well, you ain't got to like me, because I like me. And
There you
I'm my
go.
own person. I make my own food choice decisions. I said, we're on a first date. You got to be kidding me. You clocking my salt intake? I said, at no point, sir, did I tell you that I have hypertension, that I'm on prescription medication.
She's
I
on
said, I'm
point,
in very
yes.
good health. I don't take medication for any illnesses. I said, we've never had those kind of conversations. It's a first date. And you're telling me no salt? I'm like, what's going on? Next, you're going to be telling me how to chew my food. You're going to be telling me I can't wear pencil skirts and I got to relax my natural hair.
Excellent.
And I can't go
Yep.
out with my friends. I'm like, you're coming across very controlling
She
on
called
a
it.
first date. I said, something is not right.
She
And he
called it.
said to me, oh no, it's not that I'm being controlling. I just don't like women that use salt. I said, again, you ain't gotta like me. I like me. I said, and if you're not happy with the fact that I use salt, then I can pay for my own meal. I said, this is really weird.
It
I said,
is.
I've
Right.
never experienced such like
she
this
never
before on a
asked
first
why
date.
you don't
no
like salt.
Yep.
She
I'm
just
like,
said-
all the things that I'm
Yep.
bringing to the table, you would like to nitpick about me using a little bit of salt on my asparagus. Red flag. If you go on a date with a guy and he's already nitpicking you and telling you about what he likes and what he doesn't like about a woman, and you know it's specifically something that he's referencing about you, that's a red flag.
Yes.
This guy is
Yeah.
telling you that if you want to be on his boat or ride his train, that you got to basically deny yourself and do everything that he wants. That's not a loving relationship. That's
It
a
is
sign
not.
of
No,
someone
it's not.
who's emotionally unhealthy.
Boom.
That's a sign that someone is manipulative.
Yep.
That's a sign that someone could be highly narcissistic.
Yes.
Either way, it all spells toxic to me.
Yes.
And so continue to eat my food, but I'm trying to just get through the meal because at this point I'm feeling uncomfortable. When you get that intrinsic feeling inside of you that something is not right with a person, don't push it off. That's your intuition. That is the Holy Spirit telling you that this is not your person. This is not someone that you should proceed forward with. So he pays for the meal. And then we get outside the restaurant, and I say to him, you know, I really don't feel like there should be another date, a second date. And he's like, well, why? You know, I feel like we were hitting it off. I said, I don't feel that way. I said, in addition to you telling me that I can't have any salt on my asparagus, my God, you were kind of pressuring me about even picking me up for the date. You wanted to know where I lived. You wanted to come to my house. You wanted me to get in your car as opposed to driving my own car and meeting you there. And then when I told you that I did not want to drive in the car with you, I did not want you to know where I lived initially on a first date. You called me stubborn. You said that I was slightly stubborn.
Gaslighting.
And I'm thinking to myself, no, I'm cautious. And I said, you know, so it was bad, and then the no salt. And then, you know, you just went on and on about yourself. I said, I feel like you really didn't take time to get to know me. And then he's like, instead of him at this point, I'm thinking he's going to say, well, forgive me, you know, maybe I overspoke, or, you know, maybe I was just excited to go out on a date with you, and, you know, I kind of got tangled up in myself. Can you give me another opportunity? No, this guy said that, you know, he didn't see where there was an error in his ways. He took no accountability for his behavior or, you know, his aggressiveness or overbearingness. So again, another red flag. So
major
just to recap,
red flag.
If you're out with a guy, and a guy is overbearing, seems like he is overly aggressive, controlling, run, get away from him. If a guy is asking to pick you up at your house and want to know where you live on a first date, run, get away from him. If a guy like is insulting to you and you tell him he did something to you that you don't like, and he takes no accountability, he offers no apology, he doesn't back down off of what he did, but run.
Listen, she's using the word run. Why do you think run is important?
Your gut will never fail you. A lot of times we as women, we push it away. Don't do that. And as always, kings and queens, consider liking and following Planted Speaks. Peace.
Run. Why run?
Because he is not going to change. He is a crazy person.
But running is significant. Run means danger.
Yes.
And it means typically you don't have time to assess the danger. Like we like to assess the danger.
Right. Well, she was assessing throughout the whole
I'm
date.
saying post. She said after, correct. Through the whole date she was assessing, which was enough information for her to say, I need to run at this point. Because there's no need for me to have any more information.
Right.
I need to run, dead it, cut it off, end it, we good.
Right.
And she picked up on such key indicators, right? That this was not going to be, she didn't need a second date to prove what she experienced on the first date. That's what we're talking about.
Yes. Why is there such a need to try and see if they're going to change it the next time? Listen to what she said. It was flag after flag after flag after flag. If these flags are coming out immediately in the first date, this is a no-brainer.
Yep.
Get out.
Yep. Run.
Immediately.
Run, because sometimes you got to run from your own need to rationalize a situation. You just need to get out. Just take it for what it is and just run. Just take time. If you need to process what happened again to remind yourself, to prove to yourself that, no, that's what I experienced, then do that. But get out of there. Get out of the person's company. Get out of the situation. She was very, I mean, come on now. He wanted to meet her at her house. She was like, I'm being cautious. But what did he call it? She was being stubborn.
Yep.
Those are the ways that folks gaslight
Gaslighting,
you.
yes.
Right? And, you know, if you don't want to be
doubting yourself,
perceived as, as stubborn, I don't want to be perceived that way. So let me be a little, you know, or find out, well, what happened? Why you don't like salt? Why you don't like women that like salt? She never, ever
didn't care because she likes salt.
Right. She was like, it didn't matter.
She likes salt.
So I don't care.
Right. It's not going on your plate. This is not a meal for both of us to share. I'm the only one eating salt here. Mind your plate.
Right.
And let me mind mine.
But she was really keen at being able to say that was the beginning stages, right? Growth. Think about a small plant growing. That was the first seed that I don't need to see the other seeds. That means you are capable then of telling me what to wear, to put relaxer in my hair, all that stuff. That's what she was able to pick up really quickly, because if you're trying to police my food intake.
On day one, on the first date.
But she gave another basis. She said, I didn't tell you I had hypertension. Like, I didn't tell you any of these things that would even make sense for you to make
even bring it up. Yep.
No. But and the whole conversation was about you anyway.
Absolutely.
So
absolutely.
She was like, all right, let me eat my food and get up out of here.
Yep.
And what was great about it is that she could go home and drive in her car as long as he wasn't following her, right? And go home. He doesn't know where she lives.
Exactly.
That was really smart.
Yep.
Right?
Smart.
So first date,
Smart.
you don't have them come pick you up. Like, he need to come pick me up in the night. It is better for you to meet him there, right? On a first date, you really want to get to know who people are. Talk to them, hear them. And that doesn't mean after the fifth date, especially like communal narcissists, that you may miss the signs, but you want to pay attention. And they're key things. Like with covert narcissists, two things you want to know is how, if they're highly defensive, and if they're highly, sensitive, if they're just hypersensitive. You pay attention to how many times you encounter that kind of behavior. And with communal,
and when you have people who are constantly trying to take care of you in the way that they want to take care of you. This guy, they had a little touch of the communal with the no salt, that there's a problem with the salt. You shouldn't eat the salt. There was a guy who was constantly telling me, I touched on it last time, guy telling me I need to take a drink after work to unwind.
Yeah.
No, I don't, bro. I don't. You might too.
Right.
So do you. Right. I don't care what you do after work. You in your house and I'm in mine.
Right.
So, somehow I wasn't even dating again. So why are you in my business, number one? But this person was constantly telling me things like, you don't have to be so strong, you don't have to be so strong. I was like, what are you talking about? So I should be weak? That's not what I'm saying. I'm saying you just don't have to be so strong. Like, what do you want me to do? Come in and call you and cry about, anything that's going wrong in my day? I don't have anything to cry about. So now what?
Right.
And still always finding something, you don't have. I was like, okay, you're getting on my nerves now.
Correct.
Goodbye. First of all, this is never going to happen anyway.
Right.
But it's just the constant trying to push their way, trying to make you think that your way is bad. Don't you? But you need a guy to help take off your load of your bills that you're paying. Right. But if I turn around and say, oh, so you saying you need a woman to help take off the load of your bills? Correct. I don't need nothing. I got. But guess what, boo? So am I. I'm good.
Right.
I don't need you.
Correct.
It's like, no, if I want a guy in my life, it's because I want a guy. I don't need nobody. I'm not a damsel in distress. I'm a fully capable human being just like you are.
But they do look for women who, men look for women, or women look for men, or men look for men, or, or women look for women.
Right.
They look for people who are vulnerable. And if they have trauma, that's even better, because if they have unresolved trauma, they can use that to
that's how they
capitalize
get their way
on
in.
people. Correct.
Right.
Correct.
But there's ones too, just like this woman. He still was looking forward to a second date, and she called him out on everything.
Correct. And he said, I thought everything went well.
Right. Just like this guy constantly telling me, you don't need to be so strong. Don't you want somebody to take care of your bills? Bro, I can cut my grass. I can do everything. I don't need you to do anything for me. So why you keep coming at me with this?
But it doesn't mean that you wouldn't mind it if it was the right person to do it. Right. You don't need to kill my autonomy. Right.
Exactly.
To be able to take care of you, because you're taking care of bills, is because you see that that's your role to take care of it.
Exactly.
This is something that I need to do if I'm going to be the leader of this family, if I'm going to be the leader of my relationship, right? If I'm going, I want to be able to do that.
Right.
I don't have, I know she can do it on her own, but I want to do it.
Right. But if I choose to be in a partnership with you, we can have a partnership of the duties.
Yes.
But I don't need someone because if I did, I wouldn't be existing right now.
Correct.
I don't need someone, to do all the things I've done throughout my life to get me to where I've become, if I needed someone to take the things off of me, I would have crumbled and died a long time ago.
Right. And one of the key things about that woman is that clearly she communicated to him is that I don't need to feel validated to be in a date, to on the second date to feel validated.
Right.
Not only don't I need salt, I don't need to be on the second date with you. I'm good with the first one.
I am secure in myself. I am not insecure. I am not. So you can't feed on my insecurities, my feeling like I'm less than if this guy doesn't like me. And, you know, and it doesn't happen. So, you know, but yes, we want to wrap up with this final talk about the malignant narcissist in the headlines right now.
Oh, yes.
We're going to make it quick because it's time for us to wrap up.
Yes, he is absolutely a malignant narcissist, at least from what we heard from the headlines and from all, you know, things that have been... There are many things that you don't know, but clearly there's enough people who have validated the fact that he is truly a narcissist and he's truly malignant because he will do things at your expense with no remorse, no empathy about how that impacts you. And he leaves a lot of carnage.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
But interestingly enough, this is where people, though the list didn't include insecurity, this particular person, you can see the insecurity. There's an insecure base there, meaning being relevant, you know, being in charge, being masterful, being number one is important to him. And at some point, that wasn't something that he felt, something that he experienced was being number one. He had to work his way up and had to prove his relevance. And the more he got successful, the more he found the opportunity to capitalize off other people.
Right.
And that has left an indelible mark on so many people's life, and we have yet to see where that's going to go.
Yes, stay tuned to the news to find out where that is going, everything that's going to come out, because it is all over the news, so you all know who we're talking about.
Yes.
And that will wrap up today's session. And what we want you to do is let us know in the comments what you've experienced or any other questions that you have about anybody that could possibly be a narcissist in your life. Or if by the slim chance you happen to be highly functioning, intelligent, possibly a narcissist yourself and want some clarity.
Correct.
Reach out.
Absolutely.
Because that can happen too. We don't see it a lot, but it does exist. So, you know, it can definitely help with someone with maybe sort of tailoring their behaviors. If, you know, you're trying to parent and you don't want to be a narcissistic parent, things like that, maybe some things that you can work around, reach out, let us know.
Please do. And until next time, RiRi, I'm Gigi. It's always a pleasure. Bye.
Bye-bye.